So, good afternoon. My name is Koert Breebaart, and that's a lot of E's and A's in 2 words. Unpronounceable for most, not where I come from. I've been living in windmills and eating tulips for breakfast almost all my life, at least. That is what people believe when I say that I come from the Netherlands. And 6 years ago, when I moved into Asia, these things got much better, I must say. For the next 30 minutes, you'll be stuck with me. I'm going to talk about a very mysterious group of people that pay your salary. And it's not your boss. That group of people is called your customers. And in the last year, I wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Steps to Customer Centricity. And I'll be talking about it and some of the frameworks that I've used to do that. I'll also talk about this truck and how that links there. You'll see later. I had a bit of a quarrel this morning with my son to get it here. But now, all companies sell something, either a service or a product. You all sell something. In that respect, you're not unique. Now, there are some companies that also deliver an experience next to the service or product that they're selling. And not all companies are equally successful in that. There are some companies that can do very well, like Singapore Airlines, for example, Apple. You have the Ritz-Carlton, for example, who is outstanding in delivering a good customer experience. And I would say the Marina Bay Sands, you can add to that list as well. Now, this is where I want to talk about. How can you change your company? In which direction, and what are those 5 steps to transform your company into a company that's much closer to your customers, so you can start to deliver a better customer experience as well. But before we go into that, let's stand still for a moment and see where we are in this world. And Francois earlier talked also about this. We are seeing in 1850, that was what, 150 years ago, there were 1 billion inhabitants in this world. 150 years later, that number became 7 billion, so we grew 7 times. The last billion was only added in 12 years. That's how fast this world is growing. And all these people, they need to communicate. And just communicating by talking is not efficient for businesses like yours. So we need to start to send emails. We're starting to engage in social media. And those numbers are mind-blowing. So every day, today, 400 billion email messages are exchanged. We have about 3 billion Google queries. That means that every living person on this planet, including babies and grandmothers and grandfathers, is accessing Google at least once in the 2 days. And we're socially engaged. We use Facebook. 1 billion Facebook posts per day about where we are, what we want to eat, what we don't want to eat, how my cat looks like, how your cat looks like, etc. There are more mobile devices than there are toothbrushes. That's the world, that's the reality that we have right now. And it doesn't stop here. By 2030, that is in 16 years from now, the middle class will grow 2 to 3 times. And that's the middle class that will make use of this technology and will make it grow beyond needs. Now does that impact you? Yes, that does impact you, because you have a huge opportunity. Those 7 billion customers, and later 8 billion and 9 billion customers, will be your customers. If you're in B2B or B2C segment, it doesn't matter. It will always be the end customer. And they are not following your rules like they did 10 years ago about your sales process and your marketing processes and the way you sign up for products and how it's getting served. No, they will make the rules. Your customers will be 3 things. They will be digitally connected, socially networked, and better informed. Let me dive into that a little bit deeper. What does it mean, digitally connected? It means that customers, when they interact with you, 79% of the customers that you interact with will have spent already 50% in their sales cycle with their research online. So before they even come to your company, they already formed an impression of your brand. You have to deal with it. 53% of customers that were interviewed in this particular research, if they are in a sale and they would encounter one or multiple negative comments about your brand, they would not make the purchase. Leaders in the industry, customer experience leaders, they take ownership of what is being said about their brand. Laggards, they will think it's too difficult to control what their customers are saying about them. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And customers will be extremely well informed. If you talk to management gurus and marketing gurus, they will say it's now, customer experience is the new battleground. And companies do agree in big numbers with this statement. IBM did a research, and 80% of the global CEOs that they interviewed, they mentioned that customer experience is the top priority for their business. And it's for a good reason. A top priority. Forrester did an analysis of the Standard & Poor's 500. That's the 500 largest companies in the US, and they looked at their stock performance over a 5-year period. Overall, those 500 companies, the stock performance was quite flat. It declined with 2%. Then they looked, what is the customer experience that all these 500 companies are delivering, and they split them out in 2 different groups. One group that they called the customer experience leaders, so where customers claim they get a very good customer experience from this company, versus the customer experience laggards. And when they looked at these different portfolios of growth in stock price, they saw that the leaders, customer experience leaders, their stock price grew with 22% on average. Versus the laggards, they saw their stock price declining with a whopping 46%. So it's not only we talk about it and it's part of our strategy. No. This is going to define if your company in the long term will survive. Let me illustrate it with a fantastic example. And there is a company called Cemex. This is where this truck will come in. It almost looks like that truck. That truck in my house. Cemex is manufacturing cement. And if you think about commodity, this is the king of commodities. Cement is cement is cement. There's no blue cement or yellow cement or cement with a lot of flavor or odors. Cement is cement. So how are you going to differentiate yourself if you're in this cement business? You have 2 choices. Either you go by price, you make sure that you're the cheapest, but that's a game that not many companies will want to play, or you differentiate yourself by service. And that is what Cemex realized about 15 years ago. And the first thing they did is, I want to understand what my customer actually wants from me. They never asked that question in their whole existence. And they did the market research, and they found out that there are 40 things that their customers wanted. Things that they intuitively knew and things that were totally new. The number 1 was the quality of cement. Okay, that is not so much, they cannot really address that. They have a certain process, and the cement was already quite good. Number 2 was on-time delivery. So the CEO, the moment he saw that report, he went to his operations team and said, okay, how do we do on-time delivery? And nobody in Cemex could tell him that number. Because all their systems were very manual, and they have outsourced most of their transportation to a third party, and they never track it. So imagine if you're in that situation, you don't have control over the second most important aspect for what your customers, how your customers will see you. So what the CEO did, he started to automate his supply chain. And every van or every truck that he had, he put in a GPS and he started to track where they are at any moment in time. And he created rules inside his system that will tell his service agents that when a truckload would be a little bit too late or has a probability to run late, there would be a message to the service agent, and that service agent would then proactively contact the customer so that they can come up with a proposal or an alternative solution. Cemex did one thing. Once they started to do this, they saw that they're starting to cut costs out of their supply chain by 56%. Then they figured out that actually their on-time delivery with this new automated system based on SAP, by the way, gave them extreme competitive advantage. Right now, Cemex is telling their customers, if my truck is either too early or too late, you'll get a rebate on your bill. And they're running at 98% accurate deliveries within 20 minutes from the predicted time. Now that has been a big change. And Cemex is now, 15 years ago, they had just one manufacturing site somewhere in Mexico. Now they're a global player. They're the number 3 cement manufacturing company in the world. And the CEO says, due to this, due to focusing on the customers, there was no way we would have grown without all these ideas in place. So they've become more innovative, proactive, and a more reliable service provider to their customers. So how do companies like Cemex and Disney and Apple and Ritz-Carlton and Marina Bay Sands, how do they go about changing the DNA of their people into a customer-centric one? There's been a lot of research, and I also personally did a lot of research in this area, and there are 5 main capabilities, or call them steps, that will make a company change from the way you're organized now, probably in silos or very product-based, into a customer-centric one. And it starts with a vision. As a company, you need to have a very clear vision of what is the customer experience that you want to give to your customers in 2-3 years' time, for example. Companies that cannot describe that also cannot really work against the goal. Marina Bay Sands made a vision 3 years back when they opened. They say, they had a lot of workshop, and then they say, we want to be magnificent. That is their vision, their credo. So they trained all their people that they hire from all around the world and work here in the Marina Bay Sands, and we said, we are magnificent. What happened, when they opened, they were not so magnificent. I still remember the day I opened the Straits Times, and there was a big article about the Marina Bay Sands in a lawyer conference that was the inaugural conference in the Marina Bay Sands. And the video capabilities were not working, telephony was not working, they had problems with the projectors. People didn't know exactly where, or the people were not trained enough to guide all the people to the right rooms. It was a disaster. And when you're saying you're magnificent on the one hand, and you're not delivering magnificent services, you have a problem. And the management team did one very interesting thing. They say, okay, maybe I cannot change my services overnight. That will take time. Let's change the vision instead. And what they did, they said, instead of saying we are magnificent, they say journey to magnificence. You see the difference? They now say we want to be magnificent, but we acknowledge we're not there yet, but we will go there in the next year or the next 2 years. And I think they did a fantastic job. With that new vision, they were empowering their employees more than they were before by allowing some mistakes, and growing and learning, and see where they are right now. So that's on visioning. The step number 2 is setting targets. And when you set targets as a company in a customer centricity transformation, you can do that on multiple levels. First of all, there's financial KPIs, where you say how much additional revenue do I want to drive from my customers in the next 3 to 4 years, or how much cost do I want to cut out of my organization. They will talk about process KPIs like CEMEX. How much do I want to improve my on-time delivery, for example. Third level will be employees, because your employees are delivering the customer experience, so you want to make sure that they're engaged, and you can measure that over time. The most difficult one for organizations is the customer KPIs. How do I know, as a leader, as a company, how customers are looking at me in all the touch points that I have with that customer? It's something you can measure through surveys. There are a lot of ways to measure this. I won't go into it too deep. But what great customer experience companies have realized is that you can set targets on those touch points, and you need to take a very pragmatic approach there. When a customer decides, if he goes, I worked with Synctel, by the way, for a few years, and I set up a program like this. When we go about setting the targets on touch points, we said, okay, we first need to measure how Startup and M1 are doing. Because without knowing how the competitors are doing, we cannot really set targets. An individual makes a decision to either go for your brand or your competitor's brand. Do you need to be 10 times better than your competitor, or do you just need to be 5% better than your competitor? Okay? I would choose the later. I would choose that 5%, because the problem you can run into if you're 10 times better, that you're probably overspending on your whole customer experience program. So you just need to be a little bit better. So knowing where your competition is really will allow you to set relevant targets. Once you have set targets, you've distributed throughout all your managers and all your decision makers, they know exactly what to do, then you need to bring in measurements. The target without a regular update where you are against that target will not change the mindset of people. And so in Synctel case, we measured on a monthly basis how customers, or how both business customers and consumer customers, what they think of Synctel as a brand in their retail stores, in their services, in the call center, in the web, all the touch points that they have with their customers. And then in step number 4, that's where everything you will bring together. That is where once those measurements come in, then you can see trends over time. Some touch points you'll see an improvement, and you can start to celebrate. Some touch points you will see that it's declining, your customer experience, and that's when you know that you have to do something different. And that is where governance or a whole cascade of meetings on the highest level towards the lowest level in your organization will need to take place to identify the right steps to fix the customer experience. And the last one here is change management. And change management is how you look at it, or whatever you do in your company, you will start to do things different if you think about providing better services to your customers. And that weight is carried by your employees, because they need to have a different mindset. So change managers will make sure that they get the right training, they get the right empowerment to adopt the change. If you're interested, please read more about from my book. I know the first 50 people that signed up today, they got a free copy, but you can also go online and buy it, or in the Kinokuniya. There's one confusion that many companies make. They confuse customer experience with CRM. It's not the same. It's very different. Customer experience is something that is delivered from one person to another person. And there's processes that go into customer experience. There's also an IT component or an information system component, but Koert says it's very small. It's only 10% versus 70% human-to-human interaction. However, if you live in a world with unlimited resources, and you think about customer experience, you'd probably be hiring Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie to run your stores. Or you can all do all crazy stuff. But we're not living in a world of endless resources. We always looking for talent. We always have people that need to learn. And how do I still drive a good customer experience? That's where IT comes in. It's an enabler for your company to do things very different. You need to give people the right information at the right point in time to serve customers. Like Cemex did when they created an information system that will tell agents that are on the call that a certain delivery will be late. That's how that agent can get empowered and can deliver a good customer experience. Another example, and a great example, is what Rolls-Royce did. Rolls-Royce is in the business of building engines for planes. And a plane typically has 4 engines, and to maintain an engine, it will take, 10 years ago, it would take one dedicated maintenance guy or lady. Now, that worked well until GE, their competitor, came with an engine that needed less maintenance. And Rolls-Royce saw their market share declining against GE because the cost of maintaining those engines are extremely high. And that's an important feature for companies like Singapore Airlines because they don't want their planes to fall out of the air. So, and you can imagine with a complex engine like that, it takes a lot of time to dismantle it, look at all the different components inside, and replace those where you see some wear and tear. What Rolls-Royce did, together with SAP, is build in that engine all kind of sensors. Heat sensors, humidity sensors, torque sensors. And they pump all that data, and there's millions of data points into an SAP system to look for abnormalities. And with that information, the engineer can now much better maintain that airplane engine. And Rolls-Royce was able to reduce from one person per plane. Now one engineer can serve 300 planes. That is helping that is giving you a customer edge, I would say. And with all that information, they were able to better serve customers. So that's how IT plays a tremendous important role for your company as well in delivering a customer experience. I'm coming to the end. There are 3 things that I want you to take away today when you walk out and go back home. Number 1. If customer experience is not on your strategic agenda, please think again. Number 2. Customer experience is delivered person to person. However, without a good IT component, your people will never be empowered or knowledgeable enough unless you have unlimited resources to serve your customers in a great way. And learning number 3, a transformation, customer experience, if you want to improve on that, it requires some transformational work. You need to think big. You need to think about you need to understand for your company, what is it that I want to be for my customer? But then you can start small. You can start with small steps. And ideally it begins with you. With you holding yourself or changing your way of acting inside the company and become more customer focused. And any process or any activity that I'm involved in that I cannot see that it will help a customer in the end, why would I be doing it? That's it. Thank you so much. My name is Koert Breebaart. If there are any questions, I think I have some minutes left, and I'm happy to take them.